Hello there. This is TNG from the Skeptically Challenged channel, and today I'm asking the question, is Ancient Carthage a hoax? Now, why, you may be wondering, is TNG asking if Ancient Carthage is a hoax? Well, earlier today I came across this little article and thought, rivalries that shape world history. Rome and Carthage were two of antiquity's greatest superpowers. Their intense rivalry was such that a conflict between the two civilizations became inevitable. This led to the Punic Wars, apparently, and 3 epic and bloody military engagements played out for the control of the Mediterranean Sea. All very interesting. Well, I've looked at Rome in the past a number of times, but not at Carthage. And apparently Carthage is part of... Yes, well, let's see. Let's go to the wiki page for Carthage. And as you can see here, the city was developed from a Canaanite Phoenician colony. Now, I've looked at the Phoenicians in the past as well. But Carthage itself was the capital city of ancient Carthage on the eastern side of the Lake of Tunis in what is now Tunisia. Carthage was one of the most important trading hubs of the ancient Mediterranean and one of the most affluent cities of the classical world. And as you can see, there's an awful lot of detail here. And I know all about Carthage and what happened there, and some interesting stuff to read. But what we're interested in is, let's keep going down. We're interested in the sources. So how do they know about Carthage and what went on there? And what have they found? Let's just go down and find the sources. Well, we've got contemporary sources, but I've highlighted this here. So just on the wiki page itself, not a single work or even fragment has survived in its original idiom. Indeed, not a single Phoenician manuscript has survived in the original language or in translation. Well, isn't that interesting? Because how do these guys write this article then and know so much about this ancient Carthage? Let's carry on down to the references. So they have all these references and all these books that they've referenced, and usually on a good wiki page they'll put them all together into a sources section. So here are all the sources for all the references above and where they got all the information from. Now, if you notice on these sources, going from the bottom, look at the dates: 2022, 2011, 2010, 2004, 2002. Now, these references seem very late for a civilization that was around, a few hundred years before Christ, 500 years or so before Christ, apparently. But if we come up here, we can see the 3 oldest references. Let's go and take a look at these. So we have Ernest Babylon, which is a very interesting name, isn't it? Babylon for a book writer about Carthage. And that's from 1896. The second reference is 1901, and then the third is 1958. So these are the 3 oldest references. Let's have a look at the first, which is Ernest Babylon, 1896. And here's the older Ernest, Mr. Babylon. Right, so look, he was born in 1854, died in 1924. All very interesting. Trained to be an archivist. Trained archivist, and he's writing about Carthage. And here's his book, 1896. Now, unfortunately, the book is in French, so I had to do a bit of translation to find out where he got his sources from. Well, apparently there are no sources, as in 1896 for this book is where it stops, because basically what the whole book is about is Mr. Babylon basically stamping around Tunisia and around the Carthage area. And here we go, looking at the topography. So trying to get a gist of what ancient Carthage was maybe like. Obviously come across maybe a couple of old tombs or something maybe, but yeah. So we've got a bit of a dead end with this one because it purely is back to 1896 and some guy looking at the topography of Tunisia. So let's go back to the wiki page. And so the second source is Paris 1901. It's Carthage Romaine. And let's have a look at this one. So here's the book again, another French book from, as I say, 1901. Now, the interesting bit here I found in the introduction, and took a bit of a translation from this area here down to this area here. And this is what it has to say. Carthage, the metropolis of Africa, shared the fate of the country of Tervuren. The precise knowledge we possess of it does not go back much further than 1830. Oh dear, we have a slight problem here. Maybe the third source will go a bit further back than the 1800s. Shall we have a look? Shall we? Or what was that one? That was... here we go. 1958, Charles Picard. Daily life in Carthage in the time of Hannibal. So this guy seems to know how people lived and what they were getting up to in the time of Hannibal. Now, what have we got here? Now, actually with this one... This is the book here, but as you can see, it says borrow for 1 hour. Well, I already did that and took some choice screenshots. So instead of me having to borrow it again and flick through for you, I took some screenshots, some very appropriate ones. So here we go. This is the title page again. As you can see, it's the same book that I just showed you. Then we've got introduction. Now this is where information comes. A century has passed since Flaubert wrote Salammbô. So what we have is another source, and they're saying a century prior to this. But interestingly, it says after. Do we possess today the documentation which was not available to Flaubert? No further written evidence has been found, and there is little hope that one day the soil of Tunisia will ever yield the equivalent of the clay tablets of Ugarit or the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have Punic inscriptions in abundance. Yeah, I had a look at those. Basically, they are a name of a god and little else, little more else. So they're desperately barren as a source of information. No shit, Sherlock. So it goes on about Flaubert up here, and it's quite interesting what they say about this Flaubert guy. His romantic style concealed the poverty of the sources in which it was based. So basically what they're saying is that this Flaubert made it up and wrote a romantic story, and yeah, and then everybody since has been using his book as a source, which is all rather amusing. So let's get rid of that one, and just to show you the ruins. There are some apparent ruins. This book actually shows some ruins. I'd like to show them to you so you can see what how they can garner all this information they have on ancient Carthage. So here you go. Yeah, can you see that? Oops, I made a miss there. Let's go back. There you go. Look at this. Gate and street of a Carthaginian city. Yes, a few random blocks. An amazing feat of archaeology there on that one. As you can see, there's no inscriptions and no information whatsoever on the daily lives. Let's get rid of that one, and we've got. We've done the translation already. And the last thing was the bibliography, so what this book was based on. And as you can see, this essential work was from 1912 and extracts from 1927 to 47. Ancient, positively ancient. So let's just have a quick look at this Salambo. And here it is, Salambo's book. So this is the book, and they were saying 100 years, but if you can see this book, the publication for this one is 1921, and the text base, so the original edition was 1879, so not 100 years prior at all, but 1879 was when this book was published by Flaubert. And it was all romantic fiction, apparently. And if we go to the Salambo wiki page, we do actually get a little brief insight into where he got some of his information, which he built his romantic story onto. And so it says here, Salambo, 1862, is a historical novel, romantic novel by Gustave Flaubert, and it's set in Carthage immediately before and during the mercenary revolt. Flaubert's principal source and only source, I haste to ask, is the Histories, which was written by Polybius. So I'm calling it a day on this one at 1862. If you want to know a bit more about this Polybius, well, back in 2019, I actually wrote this article called The Ancient Drone of Rome. And this one goes all into Polybius himself. But bearing in mind, this is the Roman side, and the Romans supposedly came quite a bit after Ancient Carthage itself. So so this book, which is obviously the British English translation, is as far back literally as it goes, and there are no actual primary sources, as there never are, and no written texts, nothing whatsoever for Ancient Carthage. What a surprise. I'll leave a link to my Ancient Drone of Rome article for anybody interested in following up on Polybius. But as far as I can tell, this one is a bit of a dead duck. So 1862 is as far back pretty much as it goes for the ancient city of Carthage. And it's goodbye from me.
Yeah, the aliens are coming. For us, you and I, that's why we must merge as one, together, to defeat them and their lasers.